So to today's event, we are delighted that today is hosted by a young conservationist from Catalonia, Olivia Minguella. Olivia is 20 years old. She's studying for a degree in marine sciences at the University of Barcelona. She's an animal lover. She was raised by the sea, and she's also a member of Young Catalans for Nature, a youth-led environmental conservation group. Olivia is a passionate believer that young people can make a difference today to society's relationship with nature. And so she's the perfect person to guide us. So thank you, Olivia, and over to you to start our session.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Katie, for introducing me. I'm really excited to be part of this conversation between two brilliant people who have exciting ideas about the subject we will address today. So before I start talking about them and the project Reserva, the Youthland Trust, I'm going to say a few things about myself. That way you get to know me a little bit better. So I'm Olivia Minguella. I'm a student from Catalonia, Spain, and I'm 20 years old. While I was studying the scientific path of high school, I started to become really interested in subjects like biology and ecology. I got a scholarship for college in the United States, and I went there for 1 year majoring in biology. I had to come back due to COVID-19, but I'm currently studying a marine science degree in the University of Barcelona. Also, at the beginning of this year, I joined this group called Joves Catalans per la Natura, which is the group I'll be representing today. So we as a group want to give a voice to young people who are trying to take part in the conservation of the ecosystems in Catalonia and to get young people involved in nature. So having said that, in today's talk, we will discuss the project Reserva, the Youthland Trust. Reserva is a non-profit organization in the United States that empowers young people by creating the first entirely youth-funded nature reserve. Reserva has teamed up with Rainforest Trust and Ecominga to protect the Ecuador's Chocos rainforest. To sum up a little bit the values of Reserva, the Youthland Trust, I'm going to cite Ali Brodus. She is the founder of this project, and she says that young people have more than just a voice. They also have financial power, and they can wield it for the planet if given the platform. So don't worry, we'll find a little bit more about Reserva, the Youthland Trust, thanks to our participants in the conversation, Lucy Houliston and Javier Robio. Lucy Houliston is a National Geographic young explorer, digital content producer, and she's a writer with a passion for weird wildlife. She's currently studying zoology at Royal Holloway in the University of London, and she's a board member at Reserva, the Youthland Trust. She has hosted live and online fundraisers for Reserva, and she was also in the Reserva expedition storytelling team with Javier Robio, who is the other participant in this conversation. He has worked for more than 20 years towards the conservation of nature in Ecuador. He began working at Fundación Ecominga in 2006, creating Ecominga reserves, working with authorities, scientists, and local communities to identify and conserve the biodiverse habitat in Ecuador. Javier started the Dracula Reserve project, located in the cloud forest of the Choco ecoregion in the northwest of Ecuador on the border with Colombia. There, he has coordinated scientific research and activities and worked to foster collaboration with partners, including Reserva, the Youthland Trust. So that being said, I'm really excited to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to pass the turn to speak to Lucy Houliston. Hi, Lucy.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Shall I just dive right in? I've got a presentation for you to tell you all a bit more about what Reserva is doing and how it is empowering youth in conservation. I'm just going to reintroduce myself. So I'm Lucy Houliston. I'm a 22-year-old National Geographic Young Explorer, digital content producer, writer, speaker and zoology student from London. And as Olivia mentioned, on top of all these things, and perhaps most importantly, I'm also one of Reserva's youth council members, media officers and youth directors. And that is a non-profit working to empower young people across the globe in conservation. And as I said, I'm going to be explaining exactly what that means in my talk. So we're all aware that educating and enthusing young people about the natural world is key if we want to protect it, and with that, protect ourselves and ultimately our own futures. I know from personal experience that storytelling can be a really, really powerful tool when it comes to capturing the attention and the imaginations of children and inspiring them to pursue paths as scientists, as conservationists, and as change makers of the future. As a child, it was, books and natural history documentaries that led me to pursue the career path that I'm following now. For this reason, education and storytelling are two of Reserva's three key impact areas, along with conservation. We're teaching and inspiring young people around the globe about biodiversity in a collaborative and extremely creative way. We've sponsored touring biodiversity exhibitions aimed at rural communities, which is what you can see there. And we're also producing at the moment, with support from National Geographic, a live stream series for schools all about the weirder side of the UK's wildlife. But there is more to Reserva than just youth education and engagement. As I mentioned earlier, this is an organisation that actually empowers young people to make a real difference to some of the planet's most threatened species and habitats by putting us in the driving seat. Finally, bridging that huge gap between youth environmental activism and real practical action for biodiversity conservation. The organisation is led entirely by its youth council, which is made up of over 60 young people, myself included, from around 17 different countries at the moment. One of Reserva's flagship projects involves the creation of the world's first entirely youth-funded nature reserve in the Ecuadorian Chocó cloud forest. And it was with the help of our partners at Rainforest Trust that we chose this 244-acre site, which is nestled deep within the Andes Mountains in the northwest of the country, as the site that we were going to focus on protecting first. Why? Well, not only is it officially one of the most biodiverse places in the world, but it's also a vital carbon sink, an important wildlife corridor connecting two existing reserves, and it's home to hundreds of weird, wonderful and rare species, some of which can be found absolutely nowhere else. And this is what gets me excited, because my love of the weirder side of wildlife, the rare, the ugly, the alien looking, the underappreciated, has become kind of like my trademark thing. And as I say, there are lots of unusual creatures on our site. So I thought I'd give you a brief introduction to just a few of them. So this is a species of orchid called Phragmipedium fisheri. And it's pretty, but you might be wondering what's so unusual about it. Well, it's actually one of the rarest plants in the world. There are fewer than 80 adult individuals of this species remaining on the planet, and they're all concentrated around our site. It's incredibly, incredibly rare. The site is also home to these. This is a species of boletoglossus salamander. It has no lungs and breathes through its skin. And it also, so I've been told, has the fastest tongue in the animal kingdom. The site is also teeming with frogs. Some of them haven't even been named or even discovered yet, but this one I think is particularly interesting. It's a red spotted glass frog. And even though these frogs are absolutely tiny, about this big, they're really, really ferocious. They're carnivores that feast on insects, and they're also highly territorial. The males will fight each other to defend their patch, and they're even equipped with special weapons. And I don't think you can see it in this picture, but males of this species have a bony spine on the inside of their forelegs, which they use to fight their opponents. And you might have noticed the red spot on this frog's toe pad, and that isn't a marking, but a bloody patch, probably from an earlier fight. I should also mention, if we're talking about frogs, that the site is also home to a number of highly threatened and completely new to science species. On the left is the Atelopus coini, which is critically endangered, and on the right is the endangered Robayo columni. I was actually lucky enough to visit this site on one of Reserva's expeditions back in September 2019. And during that trip, I got to spend 4 nights camping in one of the undisturbed, unexplored parts of this forest, along with a team of 10 scientists and my fellow Reserva team members, Callie, Carter, and Javier, our in-country partner and expedition leader, who of course you'll be meeting in just a moment. One of our first adventures on the 2-week-long trip involved hiking 800 kilometers up a steep mountain slope through thick forest to reach the mountain ridge and the very edge of our site. And this is a huge area that spans from about 900 meters above sea level at the Pylon River to 1,700 meters above sea level at Peñas Blancas, which means white rocks in English. And the amount of life around us was incredible. And throughout the trip, I was tasked with transforming our experiences in writing for Reserva's blogs, transforming all of this wonder that we felt into blog posts. And here's what I wrote about the moment we closed in on the top of that mountain ridge. Ascending the mountain slope was like journeying into another world. Once we'd reached a certain level of elevation, the endless swathes of green that had by then become so familiar to us transformed into a vibrant patchwork of colours. On closer inspection, splashes of deep red revealed themselves to be huge bromeliads, prime hiding spots for stealthy amphibians. Amongst them, soft trailing clumps of moss dangled from even the highest of branches. We passed cascading waterfalls and clambered over enormous fallen tree trunks, all the while trying not to look down into the deep ravines that lay either side of our narrow path. Even to my relatively untrained eye, it was clear to see how this incredible area of forest has managed to earn its title as one of the most biodiverse regions in the world. And talking of biodiversity, we actually found a spectacled bear's den up there, and you can see now, here I am standing just outside the entrance. It was in this hollowed out tree stump. But even more exciting than that was our discovery of a plant species that nobody had ever seen before. When Javier had told us that we might just discover a new species or two on this hike, I didn't really believe him, but of course we did. This forest is home to dozens of undiscovered species, and over the course of our 4 nights at camp, our scientific team discovered not 1, not 2, but 4 new species of orchid. A glass frog, which had never been recorded in that region before, a type of toad that until recently scientists believe was extinct in the wild, and a brand new species of rodent. And to put this into context, scientists think that there are only about 15 to 20 mammal species left to discover in the entire world. We also found a brand new frog species, and the reason I mention this particular discovery is because this frog, and more importantly the scientists who found it, allowed us to do something that no other organisation had done before, and that was to give young people around the world the rare and completely free chance to name this new species. So our frog naming competition was launched on social media, and in just a few weeks, it received over 622 submissions from children in 36 different countries. And it's just one of the many innovative ways that we have managed to engage children from all walks of life in conservation and science in a way that's not only fun, but also accessible. We don't want any young person to feel disempowered because they don't have the funds or the tools to donate directly to a conservation project or run their own fundraisers, which is why we created the 1 Million Letters campaign. And this is an ambitious project that's calling on youth which we define as anyone aged 26 or under around the world to write an informal letter describing what they love about nature and urging world leaders to commit to protecting our planet's last wild places. And we match each letter submitted to us with $3 towards our youth-funded reserve projects, and we intend to showcase and deliver those letters directly to world leaders at events like the UN's upcoming Convention on Biological Diversity. What's more, it's also part of National Geographic Campaign for Nature's 30 by 30 initiative, which is pushing to ensure that 30% of our planet is set aside for nature and future generations by 2030. And I'll just finish up by saying that Reserva has given myself and other young people the ability to directly protect biodiversity and fight climate change, as well as inspire lots of other people of all ages to do the same in a uniquely optimistic, creative and collaborative way. And the connections that I've made through being involved with this organisation and the opportunities that I've had as well have given me hope and kept me motivated, and ultimately turned a bunch of enormous and completely overwhelming problems into challenges that, so long as we keep working together, we can find inclusive and sustainable solutions too. And talking of working together, Reserva's achievements so far wouldn't have been possible without the people on the ground at our reserves working tirelessly to protect and guard them. And in terms of our flagship reserve in Ecuador, which is our in-country partner, and I think now is the perfect time to welcome the organisation's Executive Director, Javier Robio, also my trusty expedition guide and camp companion, to talk about what it's meant to him to have young people become such an integral part of their efforts. Hello.
Hello, Lucy. First, it's nice to see you. My name is Javier Robayo, for all of you. I study ecology on the university, and later I study psychotherapy. I mix careers to understand how land protection can be more efficient, and how sometimes the species are not helping us to protect land, and sometimes people is more important than the main goals of conservation. But I really appreciate when people can be involved on the conservation actions. And with the time, I discovered that it's a good mixture, and I learned how to convert my activity, or one of my main activities, in a bridge. And people between neighbors and park guards, and between people, and I learned all these things, passing a lot of time on the field, understanding how daily things happen, and I learned how to take the opportunities that appear close to me. And the first thing that I want to talk with all of you, when I was on the university, I was like 18 years old. I attend a meeting that one of the most important people that research orchids was talking, Lou Jost. And at the end of all his speech, I was like just confused, and I was like so surprised that people was doing a lot of research in orchids and saving cloud forest. And I was just starting my career and said, wow, this is something that I want to do. And just when Lou finished this talk, I moved to the front of the line, and I just appeared in front of Lou and introduced myself to Lou. And I said, Lou, one day I want to work with you. And from this moment was like a dream. And 15 years later, Lou appeared again on my life. He invited me to be part of Ecominga. And it was a dream that took a lot of effort, a lot of work, and keeping my main passion, that are plants, orchids especially, as one of the main drivers of my life. And it started when I was youth, and I'm still working with this enthusiasm So with the time and the opportunities that I was facing, I also discovered in one point of my life that we need to train people for school, from high school, for different activities, but I was missing one part of our new generation of biologists, the new generation of activists. And I discovered that we don't have like a program to have new people involved with us. It's something that we are making every single day. And we move throughout the town where we are working and talk with somebody, and we talk with the kids on the corner, and we move around the next building, and we're starting to watch some birds on the park. It's something that we are doing every single day, trying to pass a message to young people, try to pass a message to the neighbors. It's one of the ways how we are doing our work. So we constantly make this work, and we was facing new challenges. And as soon that I was thinking and considering that this probably is an important part of our activity, I started discovering new people very close to us that provide us the opportunity to learn how to be involved with new people and how to open the gate of our own organization to youth people. And as I mentioned, we don't have a specific program that talk about how to get new people with the community. It's people that just arrive to our lives, arrive to our reserves, and show us passion and show us interest, and start providing us tools to increase the opportunities. And that was the way how I meet Marco Monteros. He's part of the Reserva Youth Council. And now he already published 2 new species of orchids from Dracula Reserve. And now he is publishing a new species of orchid from this Rio Manduriaco Reserve. And he is part of our team. He is part of the chance that we are providing to young people to come and try to do something that sometimes looks impossible to do. Well, with the good eyes and the passion that Marco had, he learned how to take close-ups and very good macro shots. He was starting to study heavily. One of our friends is one of the experts of orchids, and he just adopted Marco as one of their own students. And after 1.5 years of training, Marco started giving us a lot of products and a lot of hope because he really will be one of the main heads of the orchid research team for the next years, and actually for the next generation. And we never discovered Marco. Marco came to us, and we provide enough opportunities and support to be on the field with us, to feel our own energy, to move on the forest, to climb a tree, to cross a river, to just fall down on landslides, to move around fall trees and start looking for small things. And doing this together many, many times, I learned how people is in the real situations, in their real life. And I'm really in love of how people can be surprised with the small details, with a leaf shape or with a very tiny, tiny flower. And that's something that feed myself and give me the opportunity to provide new opportunities. Not everybody will take these opportunities on the way that we are offering. Sometimes we don't have enough good feelings or passion, but every single time that I'm meeting another person that also appear for us through Reserva, it's another like important situation that is happening between us. The energy that we have with Reserva it's so good because they know how to engage youth people, to start making their own things on their own way. And the results are all this super good relationship. And now I have more friends. And these youth people that is living in Ecuador, sometimes it's waiting for an opportunity. They're super talented, and Reserva provide these opportunities. And Reserva open my eyes and the eyes of other people to keep doing things and incorporating in all these a team of real nature defenders, in people that really know the terrain, that people help us to patrol the reserve, that people will help us to discover things. It's unbelievable the number of things that is still hidden on our forest. And one of the things that we need is eyes and passion and the scientific background that also is part of our work too. We have a good join with the Instituto Nacional de Biodiversidad, is the Natural Science Museum in Ecuador, that provide us a lot of opportunities also to have the researchers with the youth people. Sometimes it's super hard that a researcher or a scientific open the gate to a new person, a new student. And sometimes they don't want to have new people making a lot of problems on the collections. But when we are talking about our youth people, the museum opened the gates to these people because they know that we are very serious on the work that we are doing. We have all the scientific background, and we support the actions that we are doing every single day. So if we have somebody that wants to start a new crazy idea, as starting to look for ferns or fungi, as Andy, one of our Reserva members, you are welcome here. This is one of the reasons why we are protecting all this area. It's because nature needs defenders, and defenders need also some objectives, and when we join both things, we have people that is using the forest, using the ecosystem to develop science, to develop different actions that help us to protect the land. And not only through the research and the papers, we will measure how successful we are. Actually, the relationship between the people and the local people make all our effort greater. Sometimes it's the talks during the night, sometimes the talks during the early morning that change the point of view of local people about our work, about what we are doing. And that's the most important thing. And thank you to all these connections. During the last year, for example, we was able to defend our Dracula Reserve to the main problems that we have on the area. So we was fighting against the minery companies that they are trying to extract gold from our mountains. And the main problem is they try to use the politicians, the local politicians, to move Ecominga and Dracula Reserve from the landscape. But I was invited to one meeting, and my main surprise was like more than 60% of all the auditorium that we attend this meeting had the Ecominga friends. How we are working, just against to some gossips and bad things that the local government plus the company was promoting. And that was a big shock to me, looking how many people it's close to us, and a lot of these people we are connecting through their own children and youth people that is supporting us in everywhere. So and just to give you another example, we promote the 1 million letters campaign with the local government, with the main municipality, and that opened us we make a nice campaign on the local town Tulcan, and this campaign motivate the mayor of the Tulcan municipality to create Dracula Reserve as a municipality reserve. So through the campaign, we don't just provide more economical support, but now we have the chance to be protected by the local municipality. So that's a huge thing. And with all this background information, I want to invite also to Olivia to make some questions and share their own experience with all this speech.
Hi, thank you so much, Javier and Lucy, for your words. I find them really inspiring. I think initiatives like yours are very interesting, and it's extremely necessary for young people. So it gives us some hope, and we kind of have to figure it out what's our role in the conservation of biodiverse habitat. So thank you so much. And if you would like to, I have some questions to begin with. So for Javier, what's the role of young people when you go out in these scientific research activities? What does young people do in this kind of activities and research?
Well, Olivia, it's so intense, the type of work that we are doing when we go to make research. Some of the places that we are visiting, our campsites, are like 5-6 hours far away from the last point of the road, and that means that we need to carry a lot of stuff, materials, and that's not the role that we use for our youth people. They are coming as also as researchers, and they come to study and to be the main assistants of our researchers. So they will have a responsibility to complete the sample size, to visit the different areas that we are studying people. So we have a group of herpetologists, and they are looking for frogs, lizards, and snakes, and they are working during the day and also during the night. So the main thing is to be close to the researchers and to learn as much as they can. And part of our responsibility is to provide enough space and enough opportunities to the youth people to understand how it's working. I'm working mist netting. I just put these mist nets to catch birds and to study how they are, like how is the feathers stage, size, and just waiting. And part of the activities that I'm promoting is the people that is coming to assist me, they can come and they can see different techniques, and I will explain with every single bird how the bird need to be out, and all the different technicians that we can learn. So that's a space. And ideally, some of these people will start doing all this work by their own on a close future.
That's great. Thank you. And Lucy, you were in the expedition in 2019. What does it look like to have youth lead a conservation organization, and what are some of the key challenges there?
Yeah, well, that expedition was an amazing experience. You heard there what I just wrote about a hike, and I can't, it's impossible to put it into words, really. It was just so incredible. And I think, I think young people bring that energy and that fresh perspective. I mean, I don't know what Javier thinks. That was one of the things I wanted to ask him, is how, does it change an expedition to have young people involved? But we were there as storytellers. So as Javier mentioned, a lot of the young people that get involved with Echo Minga's work are doing that science, but as part of the Reserva expedition, we kind of came as a storytelling team as well. So we were documenting the scientists' work to find these species so that we could shed light on the work that they're doing. And these are brand new species. These are highly threatened species that not a lot of people know about, and not a lot of people know about this area and its importance for biodiversity. So we kind of had an important role there in just showing people how amazing this place is, because of course if people don't see it and don't understand how valuable it is, then they're not going to feel inclined to kind of protect it. And so that was our job, and it was just amazing to see the scientists at work. And as I moved forward through my degree, you know, I was already in awe of them, but as I learned more about kind of the scientific process and research and everything, you know, I just really appreciate that work. And it is intrepid. Like, Javier had to rescue me from the mud too many times, more times than I can count. I was stuck up to my knees in thick mud on the trails, and yeah, it was a real adventure. And just, I guess, bringing that insight and being able to share my experience through blog posts, through social media, and just grab people's attention, and ultimately, you know, earn their support and have them contribute to helping us, to our efforts to protect this site and make sure that it stays as pristine and as wonderful as it is.
A little bit the question Lucy said, Javier, she says that she was with you at the expedition. So how does having young people on the expedition change a typical expedition for you?
It's a huge change. Youth people bring fresh eyes, fresh ideas, a different perspective. How scientific work must be communicated to the people, to the world. And sometimes for my perspective, for my point of view, from my time that I'm on the field, I lose this perspective, how amazing is this forest, how incredible is this flower blooming close to us. And when you have somebody that is with new ideas, with the different abilities, and that's one of the most important things, you have different abilities, and when you can mix both things, experience plus the new abilities, we can have a huge successful passing information through the news. Super important to recognize that you people also bring a new type of different views of the world, and that's something that I don't have. But when Lucy was asking me questions and when we was talking on the field, I understood that it's a different world that we are facing, so we need different eyes.
Definitely, for sure. Thank you. And Lucy, one thing that amazed me from you, it's that you are about my age and you have already gotten really involved in a lot of things. So could you tell me how could a young person apply to get directly involved in Reserva, for instance, to join the Youth Council?
Yeah, so I mean, there are a number of ways that you can get involved in just its work, really, and support our work. You know, we are a youth-funded organisation, so any kind of fundraisers, if people want to donate. We've recently had our run for the rainforest event, which was a challenge that we dreamt up, I think, last year, and this was our second round, and we were asking people to go out and run a sponsored a 5K, sign up to this virtual 5K, and donate as part of their participation, and it was just a lot of fun, and so many people got involved and things like that. We're always doing creative fundraisers. And so keeping an eye on our social media channels, you can find out about all of those. And in terms of getting directly involved with the Youth Council, we have lots of information on our website. We are open all the time for kind of applications for people that really want to get involved. And all you really need is a passion. And I think everybody that has come forward to get involved in the Youth Council just feels so strongly about, you know, protecting these places and also the local communities, you know, that live in and around these places. And yeah, there are so many ways that you can get involved, but the main way is by helping us to reach our goals and create these youth funded reserves. And also we have for people that aren't able to donate, our 1 million letters campaign that I mentioned earlier. And again, over on our website, you can find out a bit more about that and how you can take part.
Okay, thank you for the information. So Javier has already told us why he thinks it's so important to get young people involved. And what's your opinion in that? Why do you think it's so important to get young people into these kind of projects like Reserva?
It's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, oh, Javier, me or Javier?
That's for you.
You both can ask.
Yeah. So yeah, we can share this answer, Lucy. But this is a moment when youth people, it's in charge of everything, in charge of our work. If you look the amount of youth people that we have on this world, we need to understand that youth people are in charge of decisions, are in charge of actions, and are in charge of the real situation of our world. And as a Cominga, I'm start the process to refresh our board. And last December, we added 2 youth people to our board. So Ecominga is not only like full of old people, full of researchers. No, it's also starting to be filled with youth people that will take our role in a close future. And they are inside to learn all these long process that took us like 12 years. They can start right now from here. So it's a moment for youth people.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start asking some questions that the people who's watching are making, and they are leaving on the chat. So from Jameson, he says, how much of a difference do you think it makes for young people to actually get the chance to go on an expedition to the place they are working to protect? And how can that opportunity be opened up to more people? So Lucy, if you want to answer this one.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say about that, it's a great question. You know, the first thing I'd say about that is, as much as we talk about the biodiversity, it's the people as well. And I got to go out there with a team of you know, a number of Reserva Youth Council members, many of them based in Ecuador. You know, a few of them actually work on our site. Marco, for example, who Javier mentioned earlier, is studying some of the life in our reserve and in the area around it. And to meet those people and to see the work that they do, it just adds a whole new kind of layer of it, a whole new level of appreciation. And you feel that sense of community, and you know, like, we're in this together, we're all working to protect this incredible place. And just to see it, as I said, you cannot describe how full of life it is. And it sounds like a cliche, but just the amount of vegetation, the amount of you know, animals and plants there, and new discoveries as well, it really does put it into perspective. And then there's the other side of it. So we traveled through an area that had been heavily deforested, and you know, we'd gone from hiking through thick forest to seeing a patch of bare land, and you instantly think, you suddenly realize how much has been lost there. It's not just trees, you know, it's so much more than that. And you kind of, you know, you feel that sort of emotional connection, and also meeting the local people as well. It's just hearing their perspectives and seeing them engage with wildlife is so rewarding as well. We had a biodiversity exhibition that we sponsored over in Ecuador, which happened while I was there, and we got to go along to that and see the kids getting excited about all the wildlife that they can find on their doorsteps, and that's really important. And in terms of opportunities, you know, it was a very unique opportunity, and one that I didn't expect to have, but I think to go to places like these, it's really valuable if you do pursue a kind of career in science, and you can go and research these places and find out more about them and contribute to conservation in that way.
Okay, thank you. And another guest, Dean, he says, do you think it's more important to connect young people with protecting biodiverse areas they may never be able to actually see, or to encourage them to protect the wildlife on their doorstep? Javier, you can answer this one if you want.
Both things are important. And you cannot defend an space that you don't know. You will not talk about saving the rainforest if you don't know what do you have in your backyard, if you don't know what do you have in your country. So I think we have multiple scales to be involved with nature, and I think the first step is to protect and to understand what is around you, and later to see what is outside. So I believe that both options are valid, and in our case, we are starting to discover most of the things that we have, and that's important because with this knowledge, we can pass to other people the message why we are protecting this area, and that's one of the reasons why scientific research, it's a main thing to do conservation. And yeah, actually you also need to feel what do you want to protect on your own heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So from Ricky, he says, do you sense that the young people you work with are remaining hopeful, or that they are increasingly overwhelmed or suffering from grief and anxiety? And how can you help them with that? Lucy, if you want to answer this one.
Yeah, I think we're talking about it a lot. It is a worrying time. You know, I mentioned that I did for a long time. I just felt overwhelmed because there are so many issues and there are so many layers to things. You think as one person, how can you tackle that? Which is why being part of a group like this is so valuable, because suddenly you've got this community. You're all kind of, you know, in it for the same cause, and we've achieved a lot by working together. So for anyone that does feel that way, you know, that would be my advice, is to go out and find like-minded people and work together on trying to find solutions. And in terms of hope, the fact that we're doing this just shows really that we do have hope. We do truly believe that we can turn things around. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing it, and we can't, you know, we wouldn't have the motivation to push forward if we didn't believe things could change. So that's what I would say about that. I personally feel hopeful, and that's why I'm doing the work that I do.
Okay, thank you so much. So the last one from Merle, she says, are there any pitfalls or problems that other organizations wanting to involve young people more directly in conservation work should look out for, or what advice would you give? Javier?
Well, youth people, is not only part of the speech, it's part of the actions. A lot of organizations around the world that focus on different programs and ways how to involve youth people. So if you have an organized group that is close to you, just start looking for the opportunities. Just pick up some of your opportunities and learn how youth people it's doing real things. And that's the unique advice that I can give you. Actually, if you come close to us, you will have an opportunity here. If you are coming close to Reserva, you will have another opportunity. And the main thing is, beside that, what organizations are offering to the people, I had this experience with the Reserva, that the ideas of youth people are super fantastic and never cross through our organization ideas. Never, ever. Concert for Conservation never will appear through our year program. Never. Because youth people is so smart and have a different perspective that you have a different way to think. So one of my big advices is just don't look what the organizations we are offering to you. Look, what do you want to do and how this can be not a speech, that can be an action. And that is the point where we will make the difference.
Well, I don't think there is another question from the public. If you want, I can ask one I had prepared. So now that you have met the fundraising goal for the work in Ecuador, what happens next?
Who wants to take this one? I will pass it over to Javier in a moment, but I will say that, it's not just about creating this one reserve. This is our first flagship project, but our ultimate goal is to create a network of youth-funded reserves around the globe. And I think because of the work that we've done so far, we're associated with cloud forest and rainforest, but we want to protect a whole range of environments, and we're also going to be keeping, working with Ecominga and Javier to expand that site that we've created, because it is a really important area that links to existing reserves. So we're trying to expand that. So that is our next mission. Javier, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, next steps are related with discover more new species for the science, involve youth people with our Dracula Reserve, connect people from Tulcan City with the Dracula Reserve, make the Dracula Reserve can help on the local economy to the people. We want to start another project related with vanilla production. Vanilla is an orchid. It's one of the most beautiful orchids, and with a lot of uses around the world that we can use also to produce incomes to the people. And that's the next step. We want to increase the size of the reserve to at least 1,000 hectares more. And that's part of our mission. And the last thing, monitoring our critically endangered species. So that's the next step.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Lucy and Javier, for sharing with us your experience in Reserva and Ecominga. I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Katie so she can conclude the event.
I've done the classic meeting myself. Thank you so much. I really just want to add our thanks and appreciation to Olivia for wonderful hosting, and to Lucy and Javier for sharing all your insights and your enthusiasm and your experience. I've said it just makes me so excited and hopeful ever since I first learned about the work that you are doing at Reserva, about everything that you've achieved. It's a really inspiring and wonderful project. Thank you for sharing it with us. So next Tuesday in our event, we're going to go wild for rewilding. And we're going to hear from, also from South America, from Rewilding Argentina and from Rewilding Europe about their work in biodiversity restoration and regeneration. So please join us then, and join us also at Fixing the Future in December. And I'm going to just leave you with a tiny taste of what that has to offer. Thank you all again, and goodbye.
We can feed the world without destroying it.
S'ha fet més evident que mai que estem en situació d'emergència.